Hi and hello at ADE 2020. I am Peter from Roland, and I am very honored to be able to welcome you all at this live cast. These are different, difficult times for everyone, so I hope you are all in a safe place and in good health. And yeah, as you know, Roland, we have some great connections to incredible musicians, influencers, and sound designers. And today we would like to give you the opportunity to get to know more about Gianni, aka Gattobus. And we have asked him a few questions, and then afterwards we're going to talk to him live. I am in Belgium, we're streaming to the world. He is in Italy, and we managed with lots of software and hardware to get this communication going. We are very pleased to welcome him later on. So let's start by asking him the few basic questions that everybody wanted to ask him. After that, once the video is done and we go live with him, please don't hesitate to post your questions in the chat box, and I will make sure that he gives you the answers to whatever you want to ask him. Okay? Enjoy, and see you immediately.
Hi, my name is Gianni Proietti. I'm a passionate synth lover that's been able to transform a great passion into a real job. Well, it's been a road paved of pain and sacrifices, but in the end, I'm here trying to convey my feelings, my emotions through my music, my videos, and in the sounds that I'm programming for Roland. My name is inspired to a famous Miyazaki movie character, which is the Gattobus, that represents the spirit of the wind, connecting people and souls together. As an artist, Gattobus was born in 2006 when I opened my YouTube channel. YouTubers didn't exist at that time. I started shooting videos just for fun of me playing around with my synths until some of those videos went viral and my name started spreading around in the synth world. I had a stop in 2010. My life went through some dramatic changes, but I don't want to dive into too much sad details. After that, I started teaching sound synthesis in private music schools, and I continued uploading videos, making music, until someone noticed me, and now I'm one of the few external collaborators and sound designers of one of the greatest brands in the world, which is Roland, and that is amazing. Well, I feel very lucky, and I hope to continue collaborating with them since I've always been a great Roland fan. My first synth was a Juno 106, then I had an E70, an Arranger keyboard, then an XP80. I've always been in love with their instruments. Now I love their latest instrument, like those powered with ACB technology, and also the new Zen Core powered synths like Phantom and Jupiter X. I love modular synthesizers. I have a Eurorack system here that has grown over the years while my bank account was decreasing. I've also got a System 500 that I love so much. I use Phantom 6, Jupiter X, TR-8S for drums, I think that these are the instruments that I use the most in my music productions and here in my studio. One thing that I love is to use portable instruments such as Teenage Engineering OP1, the MC101, the boutiques. I used to play them outdoors. I always bring them with me in the weekends or in my spare time. I think that they are a great source of inspiration to me, and they make me feel good. Well, in my case, everything's born together. When I think of a new melody, it also comes with an idea of me having an idea of the sound that I'm going to use. It's like, I don't know, it's like having a sort of library in my head. Everything is connected. But I also think that a good piece of music should work well with just any sound. While inspiration is another aspect, I think that musical instruments are like, for me, are like a corkscrew for my soul. They pull out what's inside of me. So I think that it's crucial to have an instrument, a synthesizer in my case, that makes me feel comfortable and good. Of course, the bottle must be full for the corkscrew to be useful. So I think that we have to master our instruments and we have to play them, and not the instruments play ourselves. Inspiration is something that you cannot ask for. When it comes, it comes. In the meantime, you can still play around with your instruments. Of course, sound design is very important. Not only because it's my job, but I think that if sound design is good, mixing is a lot easier to do. It's something like crafting custom pieces for a puzzle, and I think that it's a lot easier if you know what the final picture and the final form will be. I also think that the sound must not take too much attention out of the listener. It should be one with the music, a perfect blend. I think that today we listen to a lot of spectacular sound effects in soundtracks with amazing sound design, but sometimes music feels like almost incidental, and that's not good in my opinion. I think that music needs both great sounds and good musical ideas. Well, I love Roland Cloud and all the instruments inside it. To my ears, I think that they are one of the best sounding VSTs around. Maybe because I was born with those sounds. I use it almost every day. I love the Jupiter 8 emulation, the Juno 106, the SH 101, the TR 808. It's a dream to have them all in my PC, on the tip of my mouse. And also there's Xenology. I think that Xenology is quite a revolution that people didn't realize yet. Xenology is powered by Zencore, which is one of the most advanced and powerful and also best sounding to my ears synth engines. It's a hybrid between PCM and virtual analog, and to put it in a few words, it's the VST version of the Jupiter X and the Phantom that are the synths that I'm using every day in my production. For me, that I'm a synth and a hardware addicted, I love programming sounds on the hardware, but it's great to have the possibility to bring those sounds inside Xenology and use them in my production, in my DAW, so I can tweak them and adapt to my music. Then when the production is over, I can take those sounds back and put them back in my instruments and use them live. And I think that is great. Well, yes, and that's quite incredible. But of course, it depends on the quality of your and the settings of your audio card. In a synth like Phantom, you have top-notch converters, and I think that the possibilities are even greater than your PC, because it's like running 16 instances of Xenology simultaneously, and there are also all the sans effects that you can use. Last but not least, there is an analog filter with an analog drive that I often use to warm up the sound and to add that subtle, crunchy saturation that really makes the difference sometimes. Thank you very much. I'm honored to be part of this. I don't know if I deserve all this attention, but anyway, thank you again. I'll continue enjoying myself, having fun with my synths, and delivering the best music and the best sounds for all of you. Ciao!
Wow. Stay here, stay here, stay here. It is not over yet because, of course, we have an uplink directly to Mr. Gattobus himself. And I see that we already received some of the questions. It is sometimes difficult, but please say hi to the master himself. Hey,
Hi, everybody.
hey, how are you doing?
Hi,
This is
Peter.
you. How are you?
Fine,
How's
fine, thank
life?
you.
Yeah, how's the
Yeah,
situation?
always locked in my studio. For me, it's not changed very much.
Okay,
But yeah, I'm fine.
okay, great. I've been watching the chat window when you
Me
started, and
too.
there's some really great comments and questions coming also immediately about sound designing, and if you are planning to do some releases, books or video content that you plan to release either yourself or through Roland. So tell us, what are you working on?
Yeah, I started working to a book a lot of years ago, and that project remained unfortunately there because I was overwhelmed by other things and other projects. So in the future, there will be a book. I don't know when, but I think that it will be released. Now I'm not. I haven't time to do online lessons. I'm teaching here in a school in my town 1 day a week. But surely I will put all my efforts to release new tutorials on my channel as soon as I have the time to do it. I'm very busy at the moment programming sounds, and Roland is keeping me busy, and I am so happy for this.
Yeah, great. The talking about sounds, you already have done quite some sounds, even also for Roland and even for the cloud library, isn't it?
Yeah, I was counting them a week ago, and from January until now, I have programmed something like 250 patches or something like that. That's an incredible number. A lot of libraries are being released, and one of those was released yesterday, the Analogo Polysynth library for all Zencore instruments. And I'm already working at new libraries. I don't know when they will come out, but there will be other new libraries. And every time that I program a new library, I think that, wow, this is better than the other before. And this is always happening. So I don't know, maybe in a year what I will be able to to do.
That's cool. I look forward to it anyway because I really love how you tweak sounds, where you start off, and the eternal discussion about less is more, and where some people say more is more, but whatever. Now with the cloud, there is some response to it where people say, okay, that they've had a tough time because of the CPU usage of the VSTs with the cloud plugins. I think there is a solution to that inside every plugin where you can do that. But I think the question that many people have is also about what are the differences between the Roland. Since yeah, I work for Roland, so I'm not going to ask about other stuff. But we all use them, which is cool. But is there something you can explain about the differences between the synths that you have, like the model bank technology in the Jupiter, while the flagship, all of it in the Phantom
Of
is
course.
again a different engine, so people can understand this better when they make a choice?
Concerning the CPU, unfortunately, I'm not talking about other brands, but all the latest VSTs, the latest generation, are quite demanding. Not only Roland. And guys, we have to keep our PC updated and we have to change them because it's crazy. The Roland Cloud, but also all the latest plugins that are coming out are also quite expensive in CPU, but they sound really, really, really great, and nothing compared to the old plugins. Concerning the differences between the Roland instruments, I have here, I want to move my webcam. I have here the instruments that I'm working on right now. Sorry, I don't know if you can see it. There's the Jupiter X and the Phantom. This is my workbench. And
got the same one.
Sorry, Peter?
I've got the same one here.
Yeah. Well, the difference, they are all powered by Zencore. Zencore is a thing that is it's a huge engine. Inside Zencore are included the possibility to run the model expansion. So if you have a Phantom, I cannot tell you when but model expansion will come. So I saw one of the questions, because Zencore is a platform, is something that an infrastructure behind everything that can run and can do everything. It's like building blocks of a virtual analog engine, and it's an engine that, people don't realize yet that the real power of that engine. And now you can have an idea of that power if you dive inside Phantom or Xenology. If you try Xenology, now in Xenology Pro you have access to all the parameters. Some of the parameters of Zencore, and there you can realize the potential of that engine. You've got virtual analog oscillators with pitch drift, you have PCM waveforms, you have partials, you have filter emulations, you have classic filter emulations, not only Roland but other brands emulation, and you have a lot of multi-stage envelope, you have step LFOs, you have modulation, matrix modulation, you have everything. And it's a quite deep engine. And the incredible thing is that this engine is present in almost all the latest Roland products, even in the MC101, that small tiny box is Zencore compatible. So you can run the same sounds of the Phantom inside of that tiny box, and that's incredible. Okay. Really, that's mind-blowing. I couldn't believe my own ears that I put my patches that were sounding great in Phantom, and they sounded the same in the MC101. Of course, in Phantom, you have 16 parts, you have all the sound effects, you have analog filters, you have a lot of resources that the other instruments maybe don't have. But it's a difference of resources. It's like in a computer when you have the same OS, but it depends on the power of your CPU and all the devices that are connected to the PC that can change the potential of the instrument.
This is maybe something to talk a bit about. As you know, I mean, I don't want to change this into a Tupperware show because people are interested to know what you are doing. But like the Phantom is like the mothership of the high-end synths that Roland makes, and it is, of course, it is a evolving platform which carries 4 BMC, so behavior modeling cores. So compare it with a quad-core MacBook Pro, for example, in terms of, and it has an additional 5th processor, proprietary Roland processor. It means that like all the capacity of calculation is used just for being a musical instrument, and not like other types of processing where they have to use or lose a lot of processing power to ridiculous stuff. And this is not the case. But also the Jupiter X has this, but it brings other advantages. I just want to come back to the remark about the VSTs. Really check out the option settings of the VSTs. There is a function where you can reduce the CPU load and enjoy many more of them together. So I'm glad that this was sorted out. Also something about the load of the CPUs. some of the plugins are ACB. Is there something you can say about ACB technology?
Well, ACB is it's a crazy thing. The first time that I put my hands on that technology with System 8, I started my first job in Roland was with my System 8 here. I consider it like a son of mine. ACB technology is great because it has the emulation. It's not a classic virtual analog emulation. It emulates in the detail each component of a synthesizer. There is an engine that is emulating only the oscillators, an engine that emulates the filter, an engine that emulates the VCA, and it takes the sound path from one circuit to another. So if I raise the volume of the oscillators, the filter is going to saturate, and also the phase of the oscillator is free. It's free running. There are no restart or samplings, so there is no aliasing. And also the resolution of the knobs of the System 8 is incredible. Is a technology that is really, really demanding in CPU, but it's really a crazy virtual analog. I think that it's not because I'm working for Roland, I'm a freelance, but I think that ACB is the most advanced ever virtual analog engine. I have never heard or touched anything like that, and that is incredible. You can realize this only if you put your hands on System 8 because it has a BMC chip. While in the boutiques, this power is a little reduced concerning maybe the resolution of the knobs, that it's still higher than the other brands, but not as higher as the System 8. The System 8 has an incredible bit depth on the knobs that you can't really hear the steps. It's fluid like a real analog synth, and that's amazing, really amazing.
Yeah, it struck me as well because the System 8 has this on modulation, has it on frequency, on the cutoff, where you have this high resolution, where normally all the synths use MIDI steps, which is 128, just a standard 8-bit decoding for steps, and you hear them, and this makes it so different to analog knobs. While now, in the Phantom, in the new Phantom series, in the Jupiter X, Jupiter XM, all of them have this high-res stuff. And then, of course, yeah, I sometimes compare the System 8 to the cloning of Dolly, the sheep, which is basically you have a Juno 106 that you clone. Every little detail of the components are being transformed into mathematics, and it just reproduces it at 96 kilohertz. So you have all these frequencies and all these stuff that you want from the original, but which you can reduce because the annoying noise of the double chorus in the Juno.
Yes, in the Juno chorus, yes, but in the ACB engines, like if you take an SH101 emulation, if you raise the VCA and close the oscillators and press the key, you hear a little soft sound, like you hear the VCA that is opening, and that is amazing. That is crazy. No other digital synth have this, and this is because the emulation is taking care of emulating the different parts. The VCA is emulated perfectly and is emulating also the headroom and the signal that goes through filters to VCA, and this path is producing a subtle noise like in analog circuits, and that is present in ACB, and it's not like an added noise. It's not artificial. It's natural because the emulation is taking care of this thing of the analog circuit, and that is crazy. Only Japanese people can program a thing like that. They are really, really, really crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, we know them. They are quite something, and they work a lot because they just keep stuff coming. Like for the Phantom, we released a version 2.0 with multi-sampling, with a lot of new add-ons, graphic. I can just quickly switch, if you allow me, to show.
Yes, the Japanese people are amazing. When sometimes I send emails to them at even in late night, and they respond in about half an hour, and they are always there programming and working, and that's crazy. Really.
Do you plan to do more tutorials also for the instruments of Roland, or is it just going to be sound design?
Yeah. I'm already thinking of doing other tutorials on Jupiter X and XM, but also on Phantom. Now with the new multi-sample engine in Phantom, I'm planning to release a tutorial on how to the fastest way to sample something and play it. And that's quite an easy tutorial because it's an easy task. It's really easy to use it. But anyway, I'm planning to do more tutorials in the future.
That's great.
So
somebody's asking, do you have comments, or what tips would you give to a newbie, somebody who starts with sound designing and wants to dig deeper into or get started and overcome problems or mistakes that you can make? Is there anything that you would share?
Well, it depends on the instruments you start with. It's better to start with simple instruments, and with instruments that give you the access to all the parameters. So if you have access to all the parameters and you have an instrument like, for instance, an ACH 101 or the ACH 01A, the boutique, or something like this. Maybe also in Jupiter XM, but Jupiter XM has a lot of models. Maybe in Jupiter XM, it's easier to start with a simple model like SH101 and starting from scratch, from initialized patch. There is a function in the menu. It's the first function that I always search in a synth, how to initialize the sound and start from scratch. You should look for that in every synth that you touch. And then you can change the waveforms, starting to move the filters, and then getting used to use the envelopes, using the filter envelope and trying to adjust it is one of the most simple but also complicated things to do in subtractive synthesis. It's simple, but it's complicated to reach the sound that you really want. Once you get used to manage the filter in the envelope filter, the amount of the modulation of the envelope filter.
This should be a lot easier now because you're working full high res. You have high resolution on the knob, so it's much easier to be. I mean, it behaves like an analog.
The crazy thing that it behaves better than most of analogs, because most of analog synthesizers goes through MIDI, and MIDI has only 128 steps, or maybe 256. And you hear the steps in analog synthesizers, while in Roland you don't hear the steps because the resolution is higher. So it behaves like the older pre-MIDI analog synthesizer. It's even better. The feeling when you are tweaking the sound in Roland synthesizer is incredible. It's like the old times when MIDI didn't exist. So it's
cool.
great.
I have to take my glasses because my screen to read the questions. Okay, so people are even responding to the questions, so we don't have to go there. There's somebody asking if the cloud plugins are the same as the physical SH01A and so on. So of course, as I said, ACB basically works in a 96K, and this 96K is of course an important thing to get all the harmonic parts of the sounds that you hear out of an analog synth, and you will recognize it if you augment your sampling frequency of a project to 96, and you will hear differences, isn't it?
An aspect I would like to talk about before running out of time, that is the difference between the model banks and the ACB technology. A lot of people is asking me, which is the best? Do I have to use ACB or model banks? What would you choose? Well, lucky for me, I have both. So if I want a perfect and crazy emulation, like I said before, I goes to ACB, but ACB is quite demanding also in hardware synths. In System 8, you have only 8 notes of polyphony, and when you use 2 parts, that 8 notes, they become 4 notes of polyphony. In model expansion, you have the power of Zen core. In model expansion, you have more polyphony. So in synths like Jupiter XM, you can use 4 or even 5 if you are including drums synthesizer simultaneously without losing the polyphony. So that is a great advantage of model banks compared to ACB. How they sound? Well, they sound really, 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 really close. To hear the difference, you have to be a really synth geek. As I said, in ACB, you can hear a subtle low noise. In VCAs, you have an amazing resolution. You have coherence in the phase of the oscillators. You have a lot of stuff that maybe a lot of people don't even realize in synthesizer. So it's a matter, in the matter of fact, there is a difference between versatility and really close, crazy emulation. I think that if you are playing live, or if you need a lot of synths together, or if you want to use a single synthesizer because your budget maybe is limited and you want to spend your money maybe you have money for only one synth. If you go in for Jupiter XM or Jupiter X with that synth alone, it's like having 5 synthesizers at once that you can use freely without losing polyphony and without the need of anything else. System 8, it maybe is more right for producers, maybe people that has other synthesizers and want something specific to emulate in crazy detail, maybe a model of Jupiter 8 or 101 or something like that. So I think that these are the main differences between those two technologies that are both great. Also in model expansion, you have the possibility also to switch the filters, so you can create hybrid monsters like an SH101 with a ladder 24 dB filter, or maybe a Curtis filter like Prophet. So you can do crazy things like that, while ACB is strictly like the original.
It's like, as I said, it's DNA. It's Dolly. It's nothing else.
Yeah.
And with model bank, you can have a poly or a molly, and you can change the color of the hair and stuff. You can, but it's still going to be the sheep. Basically, it's going to be the same animal, but you can tweak it. You can do that. Yeah, there was a comment about the manuals that there is some comments about the manuals that come with our equipment. I'm sure that will be addressed. I think for the translations, probably for certain countries, this takes but we do our best to get this better. But I want to give you a hint about the use of Roland instruments. You definitely know that one too. The most important instrument or button on an instrument at Roland is always the shift button.
Yeah.
I never touched the manual of any synth ever since Roland started doing this. If you want to program anything, just touch it by pressing the shift button, and you will be immediately in the menu where you can do that. So, and this basically avoids having to go and find this kind of feature. So check it out if you have a Roland synth, and we can go way back, because this is a feature which is so convenient, and not just in the studio but also live. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, if you want to jump to a parameter, maybe that it's not on the panel, especially in Jupiter X, there are a lot of controls, but there are a lot of emulations, and maybe not all controls are in the panel. Shift, you touch. For example, if you want to change the pulse width modulation, and in the Jupiter 8 model, it's not on the panel, but you press Shift and you turn a knob in the oscillator section, any knob, you go straight into the menu, and the menu jumped there, and there you can find at once the PWM. So the Shift button is your best friend. Maybe we should anyway pull an ear to the Roland guys, because I loved the old manuals that Roland were doing. I'm quite old. I'm 45, and at my times, Roland were releasing a lot of books other than manuals that were explaining and teaching synthesis. It would be great if Roland would came out with something like that, because now there's a lot of. They are still present in the web if you search for them. There are a lot of Roland manuals that are great for learning synthesis. Maybe you
sometimes, sorry to interrupt. Sometimes the misunderstanding is that the, many people just download the standard, the Get Started manual, which is the first one that shows up in the list when you go further down.
Yeah.
The reference manual, which is complete like they always were. Sometimes translation takes a bit longer, but this is because of the typical problem inside Europe compared to the rest of the world, where they are happy with just English. But we do our best to have a maximum. Basically, everything is there in the current languages, so that's cool. Let's talk about what else did we have. Yeah, the questions have been answered, which is cool. Maybe it's good that you do this kind of book. I remember the last one was about the Gaia tutor and the software that came with it. There was I think even Scott Dipp did a great book on Gaia, on synthesis.
There was yes, there was
I think it's a good time. Maybe you should think about it. Maybe next summer, when we can go on a holiday, you just take your computer with you, and
it would be a great idea. Maybe do something like this for everyone, for maybe released by Roland like the old times. I still have an old manual of D50 that we're teaching the linear arithmetic synthesis and something like that. It would be great to do something like that, maybe for Zencore.
Yes, exactly. Because I mean, sure. Because I mean, all
who
the
knows?
here that surround us are basically Zencore, so we can exchange sounds and do all that. Now, you are a modular fan as well, like we all are.
I had that fever.
Yeah.
I had that fever. Now has decreased a little, but I had I was in love with Buchla modular synthesizers, so I couldn't afford to buy a real Buchla synthesizer. So I built myself a Eurorack system, modeled on that one, modeled on a Buchla. So the West Coast synthesis and stuff like that. But I also love the classic synthesizer, modular synthesizers. One of my favorite synths ever is the system the system 100, and now I have here. I take the webcam. I have a system 500, which is the new Roland modular, and I love that sound. It has that rubbery. It's great. It's warm. It's great for basses, for bass sounds, and I love it. So these are my two modulars: the West Coast synthesis one here behind me, and the subtractive synthesis synthesizer that is the System 500 that I'm using. I'm also using that with my Phantom. They are always plugged together, connected, because in Phantom I have the CV outputs, and the CV outputs now they are glued. They are stuck here in my System 500, and I'm using that constantly every day, and I love it. So yes, I'm still using modulars, and I'm also sampling them to use them in polyphonic way here in my Phantom. So let's see if there's some other question.
Can you still hear me? Because I'm
yeah I lost you for a moment.
No problem. When you sample the analog stuff, I mean, do you use the Phantom as an audio interface? Are there versions to your liking?
Yeah, the Phantom as an audio interface is amazing. It has almost infinite headroom. It doesn't even and never saturate. It's amazing. It has a detail that is incredible for a synth or for a thing that is not an audio card. The quality of the converters of Phantom is something that you must hear with your ears, because you cannot believe it. It's amazing. And I have sampled almost everything in my studio here. I'm building a little library that maybe in the future will be released, I hope, because I love to share all my sounds. And I have sampled my modular here. I have sampled here. I have other instruments, other analog synths. I have sampled my old acoustic guitar. I have sampled everything, and I was tweaking them, because when I put a sample inside Phantom, you can also use the Zencore engine to tweak it. You can do FM, you can do ring modulation on samples, you can do really crazy stuff. And that's amazing. That opens a new world of possibilities. That is a sound designer's dream, really. So yeah, I'm quite happy to be involved in this production of sounds, because it's so fun for me to do this and get paid for it.
On top of that, fortunately enough, I mean, I think that's the most normal thing to do especially in these strange times. I was just showing a few of the windows to the guys in my screen, as I have a camera on top of the Phantom, so they can see a bit of the routing possibilities and all that. Also, as I said, what struck me is that, like in the real professional world, Roland seems to have looked at every detail in this synth, not just the power and the choice of technologies, and which is growing, because I mean, Phantom came out last year, which was a full instrument basically, but they just keep on packing stuff in there. They added a incredible vocoder. They added the multi-sampling now again, which is, of course, I mean, since it's at 48K and can do much higher bit rates than any other instrument. This is, of course, something great. I mean, on USB you can go to 192K, so it's all very flexible when you look at it. But having separate power supplies, even for the A to D and DA converter, separate from the power supply of all the BMC chips and stuff, it's truly professional.
Yeah, and also the vocoder, as you mentioned earlier, it's something amazing. I love vocoders because I'm a great Daft Punk fan, and I love to use vocoders. Also Crafter fan, and I love to use vocoders. And in Phantom there is 32 band vocoder with the possibility also to adjust the envelope response, and you have an incredible detail. Yeah. Here, this is you even have more bands than that. If you go back in the previous screen, you can change the number of bands to 32, and next to that parameter there is also the possibility to adjust the envelope response to long, like the vintage vocoders, or sharp or soft, and that is a game-changing feature for vocoders. You can really hear what you are saying, and you can achieve incredible results that I have never experienced before. So it's really, really, really crazy. And now in the new OS, in the 2.0 OS that has been released lately, there is the possibility to route the audio from the samples, from the sample pod to the vocoder, to use the samples like modulators for the carrier. You can choose the carrier that you want, and you can use a sample as a modulator so you can vocoding without using the vocoder, or maybe you can route a drum pattern to the vocoder and making crazy stuff.
So I'm just showing it now so they can see where it's going, the routing of the pads and stuff to where you want to go it, and or send it to the other effects or routings. This is
it's incredible,
really flexible.
Yeah. There are a lot of possibilities. Every time we talk about Phantom, or I have I talk about it, there's something that I forget to tell, because there are a lot of things to tell concerning Phantom, because it is a huge instrument. But in the end, one of the things that I love in Phantom is that it sounds great. It sounds really, really great. When I love analog sounds, I love classic sounds, and when I go into programming something like that, I invite you to try the latest pack that has been released yesterday or 2 days ago. That is the analog polysynths. There, I put all my efforts to recreate the analog feeling of the sounds, and there you can realize really that it sounds really amazing. And I invite you to, if you have the possibility, maybe in a shop, to try the Phantom with those sounds next to a real analog synth, and try for yourself the differences, because Phantom is really sounding great. That you can realize, because if you hear every synth, if you hear that alone, maybe it sounds great, but you really realize the power or how good a synthesizer sound when you compare next to each other. I have compared my Phantom here with all my stuff in my studio, and it sounds gorgeous. Also the output volume, but also the dynamic, also everything. It just sounds, and that is great, really.
Yeah. And also bringing the tactile window is an incredible thing. I think I've got a sound here where you can basically, let's see, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I did that sound just to demonstrate the possibility.
So here we are, and let's talk about this, because this is just one tone. The Phantom can do 16 tones, 16 times 4 oscillators, which I can select with buttons, and then I have for every of these oscillators, I have 2 step LFOs, so 128 step LFOs that can do multiple things next to the matrix and stuff. And now in the clip sequencer, you even have the automation of all that. But this is especially something that I like. I haven't even found a plugin which can do this in such a resolution at that speed and keep the attack, the precision of the changes, and also like the curves that you, the variation of different curves to even analog style ones it's amazing. Great sound, very nice, well done. Just starting with the white noise. So how easy it is just to make sound move, and you don't even need an arpeggio, because you can bring so much movement, not just for pitch or filter, but for basically anything into that. This is
if we explain to people that step LFO is modulating the filter that is processing a white noise. So there is a white noise going to a filter, and the filter is modulated by the step LFO with the pattern of the hi-hats that is going that way. And also in the other partials of that single tone, I use the step LFOs to create the famous sequence of On the Run.
So it's doing a pitch step, and if we go into step LFO,
There is, I used one of the envelopes that I weren't using, that is the pitch envelope. I didn't use the pitch envelope, but I used the pitch envelope in the mod matrix to modulate the intensity of the LFOs that after a certain period of time start modulating the filter, doing wah, 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 wah. So if you keep the key pressed, you hear the sound that it's starting normally and then begins to be modulated by the LFO slowly and then goes down again, because I have used the envelope like an automation to
so you have the ramp that you can see here.
And also I use the other LFOs that I had, because in each partial there are 2 LFOs. So there are 2 and 8 LFOs in total that are modulating every parameters. So there was the plane that was going from left to right, and the helicopter, and all the other crazy stuff.
I'm reading it too.
Yeah. Well, I'm a synth geek. Every synth that I buy, the first thing that I try to do is replicate the on-the-run patch. So I'm quite so.
Yeah, but the thing is, of course, despite of the name Phantom, it is a true synth. The previous one were just PCM playback engine. This one is a true synth with even an analog filter inside, and you have the choice to redigitize the filter after you use it, or use the separate outputs if you want to keep it analog one. So you're again totally flexible in that too.
Yes, there are a lot of ways to use the analog filter inside Phantom. You can use specifically for one part as a normal filter, but you can also route it. You can route a drum part and filter the drums, or maybe you can use it in the end. I always use the filters in the end because also the digital filters are sounding great. So I don't feel always the need to use an analog filter for one sound. So I use the filter at the end where all my sounds, all my parts are going to the main output before I pass them through the analog filter, because the analog filter has an analog drive. There is a real analog drive that you can use, and I often use that as a mastering tool, because I use that in a subtle way to add a little harmonic distortion to warm up the sound, and it really sounds amazing. It sounds really fat, like an analog synth, because that's almost the secret of an analog synthesizer, the saturation and of the real circuits. And here, because it's an analog circuit, you can hear that. So you can have the best of both worlds, digital emulation with Zencore and that analog feeling with the analog filter put at the end with a little bit of drive.
Yeah, talking about that, because now we're just talking about filters and stuff, but even when I was starting to work with very basic sounds and looking at the effects, also in Jupiter and Jupiter XM, I saw your video when you were playing the Jupiter XM. I think it was you playing it outside in the cold to point out what kind of technology Roland brings into these units to make them sound totally individual. So you can tweak your sound and make it sound different from any other Phantom, from any other Jupiter. You can make it behave like an analog machine, basically.
Yeah, like we were talking before, this is the Japanese craziness. That is making a digital synth sound imperfect, and they added a thermal sensor inside the Jupiter XM and also in Jupiter X that can affect the tuning and the stability of the oscillators. You can also disable this effect. And also there is another cool feature that I always keep turned on, and that is one of the secrets of the sounds that are sounding good is to keep them the age of the instrument not at 0, because it has an aging feature inside the Jupiter XM and Jupiter X. That is the age. If you try now a real Jupiter 8, if you calculate the age, it's about 35, 40 years. So if you want your synth to sound almost like a real Jupiter 8, you have to put your age in your Jupiter X to almost 40 or even 45 or 50 years if you want it to sound a little more, not too much, but a little imperfect, because on a lot of analog instruments maybe are not tuned, are not serviced, they have some imperfections, and you can create those imperfections automatically in Jupiters just by turning the age knob up, and the magic is happening by itself, and they sound gorgeous. And for synth geeks, you can almost recognize the cycle notes, the cycle polyphony notes, because these parameters changes also the behavior of each individual envelope for each voice of polyphony. So maybe one voice, the filter is calibrated a little higher, maybe in one voice the filter is calibrated a little lower, and if you count the voice, like in Jupiter 8, you have 8 voice of polyphony. And if you press 8 times the key, you can recognize the voice that is cycling like like a real analog, and that is crazy.
But there is a certain randomness, and this is also like this randomness that has been brought into this technology is cool.
The randomness, yes, there is a parameter that is the analog behavior, that there is a kind of drifting in the oscillators, but the age is another thing. The age affects not only the pitch, because it's not a simple detune. It's easy if you want the synthesis to sound analog, you go on the tune. No, the age is not changing only the detune, is changing a lot of parameters. Is changing also the VCA, the noise on the VCA, the response of each individual voice of the VCA. So it's a crazy stuff. It's a Japanese stuff. It's Japanese magic.
Yeah, I think it took us. It's about 33 years that I'm working for the company, and it took them 30 years to get all the stuff out of the analog stuff that nobody wanted in there out to go to a digital instrument, and now we are bringing it back in. But you have the possibility to take it out, which is cool. Before that we wrap up, because we are already over time, I see, but it's so interesting to talk with you. We can do this again and a lot more. There are some people that really enjoy seeing you, are so glad to finally see the face behind the famous Gattobus. About randomness, can you tell just a quick thing about the I-arpeggio? Because arpeggiators, they are used in dance music sometimes a lot. I mean, whatever plugin you take, you will find this, and using it live is of course possible in all these, but the I-arpeggio is something special, isn't it?
Yes, and I was one of the lucky persons that have been involved in its development, thanks to Nagata-san, that invited me to program some of the I-arpeggio patches. And I-arpeggio is a really, really cool features. Of course, you can also disable the I-arpeggio, but I-arpeggio gives you the possibility to adapt the arpeggio as you play. And sometimes when you run out of inspiration and when you are searching for something new, it's like jamming with someone else. You play your part, you put the arpeggio in other parts, like bass parts on other arpeggio that are running over some pads, and the other artificial intelligence are jamming with you, and they interact with you as long as you play different chords, or the spacing of the chords, or the velocity, and that is quite amazing. And it's very, very fun. I find it really fun to use when I'm just playing around. Maybe not when I'm programming something specific, but when I want to have fun with my synthesizer, because I'm not. When I finish to work on sounds, I continue to play with synthesizer. So I play synthesizer all day. But when I do, for me, I love to use the arpeggio for creativity, just to have ideas and just to create something new, and that is great. I hope that they will put also this feature in Phantom, because it's so great, and it has a greater potential that has not been shown yet. I've been given a developer tool with the arpeggio, and there are a lot of hidden features that have not been released yet, and I hope that they will implement them, so we will have even more possibilities. Because arpeggio, it took, I don't remember, I don't know if I remember well, but it took almost 4 or 5 years together with the Tokyo University to develop this kind of technology. So it's not like a simple thing put there.
No.
Is a huge technology, and there's a lot of people that work there, and it's really, really, really great, really. And it's a multi-arpeggio. It's a multi-part arpeggio that is playing with you, that is jamming with you with artificial intelligence. That is really, really great.
Cool. Good. I think we have to wrap up. Do you have more messages for your fans, because they're still hanging in there and enjoying?
Well, guys, I would like to be here all the day, but maybe there will be some other occasions to talk to you directly. I hope I will continue programming sounds and trying to deliver the best for all of you, and I will keep playing, having fun with my synths, doing videos. The videos that I do that for fun, and most of them. So stay tuned, as we usually say in these occasions, and we'll see what will happen in the future.
Okay, thank you so much. I mean, Roland, we are very
Thank you for inviting me.
That we can work with you, and we look forward to see a lot more with you. And I hope that we find a platform, and that hopefully maybe next year you can come live to Amsterdam, and that we do a session with you in one of the many venues that normally are hosted by ADE.
That would be great. Let's hope so.
A good thing to do. So thank you very much for all the guys and all the dolls that have been watching. Thank you to you. Back to Italy. And I think it's a wrap. Thanks so much. It was great having you in our show. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.